So what they've done is a stress test on the New Zealand banks, and I'm just reading through. The first scenario involves a recession in New Zealand with output declining 6.5% because of unemployment and trade-facing businesses and all of that, and unemployment peaking at 10.5%. So what did we say? It was 5.3 as of right now. So pretty much unemployment doubling from here, and house prices falling 35%. This is their
35. Hmm.
35%. That is their first stress test scenario. And in that case, because you have the graph up there, what they're showing is the bank's CET ratios drop from a good 13% down to about 9.5%. If unemployment went to 10, which will have an effect on house prices, which might drop by 35% and all that kind of stuff, banks' tier one ratios will drop. Now, the second scenario, they're saying where each bank faces a severe outflow of retail deposits. What that means is if the first scenario is happening, people panic, they realize that banks are in poo-poo or in trouble. People start withdrawing their retail deposits. And now let's go back to what we've discussed before. There's only 10% of the money actually exists.
Mm-hmm.
There's 90% lent into the economy, which is fugazi money. And let's say for 3 months, the banks cannot get wholesale funding markets, which means, as I mentioned before, ANZ, BNZ, all these big banks and all, they also borrow money from offshore markets on short-term rates. So they're saying in 3 months, our banks cannot borrow money from overseas, and Kiwis start pulling their money out, whether it's Kiwis or Australians or other big companies start pulling their money out of New Zealand banks, then not only does it affect their liquidity, but affects their solvency. And that graph clearly shows you that their tier one ratio drops to about 1%, which means for every $100 out there, they would only have $1 on their balance sheet, not 10.